let's just sew whatever. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making the Plover pouch from Noodle-head, but we've made it clear. Kind of fun. I did not have a set plan really when I went into this, but I really love the way it turned out. I used a waterproof like nylon binding that I carry on my website so that it's really thin and kind of looks like a store-bought clear bag. We added a mesh pocket on the inside with some fold-over elastic along the top. All of the materials are from Mormino.com, except for I got this zipper pull from Love Lola. It's a really lightweight little gold star. And this tag is from Sonar, made with the heartwood and hide. And yeah, let's get into it. Don't forget to subscribe if you like to do that kind of thing. I'd appreciate it. We are going to start making the clear Plover pouch by cutting our zipper end pieces in half. I had cut 2, but you're gonna end up like folding it in half and half and half. And I don't want that on mine. I just want it to be one single piece of clear so that it's not too thick. So I'm just gonna fold that over the ends of my zipper, centered, to create that zipper end piece. And then it says to stitch down all 4 sides, basically. And I'm just using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around all 4 sides. And we'll trim that excess. And then if anything shifted, you could give it a little trim. Mine shifted there, but I can't trim that. So I'm just gonna say it's a-okay. Everything will be fine. All right, now, okay, both zipper panels in half so that we have 4. Okay, that's what I thought. We're gonna cut this in half, but I wonder if there's a way I don't necessarily have to do that. But it says we're gonna fold these 1/4 of an inch up. See, here's where I'm like, I could have just a raw edge of it, but I don't want to. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to use 1/4 inch wide double-sided tape. Both sides. And I do like that there will be 2 layers of the clear on the zipper. That's going to make it nice and sturdy. Maybe I'll clean up my area. And I like the idea of that. So I think I'm okay with that. So we're going to fold this up by the width of the tape. And then this is gonna get cut in half. I think I might just run over to my cutting table to do that. And then I'll notate on my pattern piece to cut it in half, because when I'm at my cutting table, I like to do all my cutting. And then when I come sit down, I like to have everything ready to go. But it is much easier to cut a cotton fabric in half than it is a clear, so that's okay. So yeah, I'm gonna go cut that. And then we're gonna be centering our zipper panel with right sides together and then fold it open to top stitch. Okay, we're gonna find the center of our zipper, and I'm just gonna mark it very gently. I'm not going to snip it. And then with my 1/8 inch wide double-sided tape, I'll go ahead and tape where I'm going to add my zipper. I can fold this in half and make a crease or a mark. Peel that tape. And I'm going to put right sides together. Now, right sides together is not as serious right now because I'm using the exact same fabric and I don't have any direction in mind. But if you've got an exterior and a lining, you're going to want to make sure that you put exteriors together, linings together, etc. So right sides together. Okay. Whoa. And then this is a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm starting about 1/8 of an inch from the start of that folded edge. 1/4 inch, stopping around the same. I'm just catching the edge that's folded. You don't want to go too far over or you're going to see your stitches. And then we're going to fold this open to top stitch it. And I'm going to get it started. And then when I'm here, that's when I'm going to fold everything out. And go slow. Because I think it's too hard to fight all those layers prior to, but if you do not trust yourself to get everything to sit nicely as you're sewing it and you want to do it first, then you totally can. And then it does not say I need to leave this. Oh no, it says optional is to baste, and I prefer to. It just helps everything sit nicely. So there's 1/2 of our clear zipper panel. And then now I can decide what do I want this to look like. I think that'll be pretty. So this, if this is how I want it, this is going to be attached to my zipper. So this is going to be where I place the tape. We'll find that center again. I'm just pressing it. If you need a more definite center, you can measure. You could make a teeny tiny little snip. But I'm okay with the fold because I also have the edge of the zipper panel on the other side to line that up to. And you don't have to tape both sides. Once you have one, you're about to go sew it. I'm not taking any chances, you know? So I'll have right sides together. You would have your linings touching your linings and your exteriors touching your exteriors. And then a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Starting just under where you folded that fabric down. Now, if you are worried about bulk, you can trim your seam allowance just a little bit. but I'm folding one side first and then folding the other. And once I've got that started, keep it lined up, top stitch against that open edge, needle in the corner and pivot. And then I'm going to pull on that vinyl and sit everything flat. And now we will have a raw edge at that top seam for the clear. If you were making this bag per the original instructions, you would not, because you're putting right sides together, turning it, etc. Ah, I could tell that was happening. So that happens to me because the foot vibrates and the screw loosens. So there is our zipper panel. You could add 2 zipper pulls. I forgot that I wanted to, so I didn't. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fold this in half and make the tiniest little snip at the center on both sides. Okay. We'll set that aside. So I am adding an interior mesh pocket. So I've got my mesh here, and I've got some really cute Galaxy fold over elastic, and she says she likes to cut it about 3/4 of an inch shorter and kind of stretch it. I'm like, okay, I can do that. And this is going to be interesting on my industrial. I think it'll be okay. But just throwing it out there. This is like a 1-inch wide elastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm stretching the elastic, not the mesh. And I just want it to be the width. So I'm going to line up the mesh to that line, and then I'm sewing. Nice and slow. And you don't need to overstretch your elastic. You want it to just sit to be the same size. Probably could have used some tape to help me hold this together. That's okay. Mesh in place, folding the elastic over top. We did it. Whew. All right, well, it doesn't look bad. I'm surprised. I shouldn't be surprised, but I thoroughly am surprised. Now you would go ahead and baste this to your lining fabric if you had one. But I'm going to baste it to the inside of my pouch. And I may end up not thoroughly basting it, but maybe just clipping it for now. No, I'm going to baste it. That'll be good. Because we can also stitch down, yeah, we're also going to stitch down the center. Not a problem. This is good too, because sometimes when you're working with clear, it's hard to see the edges. So now I'm kind of like, well, I very clearly can see the edges because it's where the mesh is. Okay, I'm gonna get this lined up. Find my center mark there. And I'm just gonna kind of leave this sewing up to the center. And you're gonna see and feel that stitching on the outside, so just back stitch, tie off if you need to, but I think that's fine. And then you've got this mesh little pocket on the inside of your clear bag. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, so now we would make our interior zipper pocket, but we're not doing that. We can put our gusset all together, but I'm gonna go ahead and attach this cute little tag first. This is from Sonar, made from the Heartwood and Hide, but sold on her website. This is her artwork. So cute. I'm just pulling all of my threads to the back, separating which ones go together, tying them off. And then since this is a clear pouch, you're gonna see these stitches, so tie them as neatly as possible. We've got that attached. So front, back, zipper done. Now we've got our gusset piece. It does not say the seam allowance. 1/2 inch seam allowance unless otherwise noted. So I will use a 1/2 inch seam allowance for this, but I'm not going to have to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance when I put the whole thing together because I don't have a separate lining and an exterior. You do have to use the 1/2 inch seam allowance here so that it matches the size of the bag in the end. So keep that in mind. I'm going to go ahead and trim this. Trim the clear out of that seam allowance, and I think I'm going to top stitch that flat. Well, fold the assembled gusset in half, find the center. top stitch along the seam on the side panel. So you would sew all of that bulk up, but I'm gonna go ahead and sew it flat so it's a nice finished edge inside. All right, and then this is our seam side. So we want to put this right sides together, lining that up, and this is a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Back stitching at the beginning and end, trim those threads, and then we're going to trim just a little, oh, excuse me, sorry. Little triangle excess. My trash can's like way over here, so that's fun. Okay, so now we're going to fold that in half. Oh, I already found the center. Aha, go me. Okay. So I mean, being that we are making the clear version, we are almost done. We're going to find our center. We're going to put right sides together. So I can't feel that seam. That seam is there, so my exterior is facing my exterior. And this is where I'm going to change my seam allowance just a little bit. You want to keep in mind that if you change it too much, your zipper panel is not going to sit the way it was intended for the original pattern. But I think I'm going to go ahead and do a 1/4 inch. No, I'm going to do a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Well, okay, so if I do a 1/2 inch seam allowance, which makes it so that the size is as intended and that the zipper panel will fit accordingly, then I would need to trim before I added any binding. So I can do that. I'm just like thinking what I want to do. So right now I'm clipping the top and the bottom together and making it so that all my excess then has to sit in the corner so that we can add some little snips to help that sit flat. Okay. Okay, let's see. Decisions. Yeah, so I feel like without using that 1/2 inch seam allowance, our zipper gusset is just gonna be, you're gonna have a big gap. And this is supposed to like magnet to the side, but I may just rivet it in place. That kind of defeats the purpose of like a wide open bag, but being that this is clear, it's already a little bit different of a use. 1/2 inch seam allowance. You could have also folded, no, we're gonna be top stitching it in the end, so it's not a big deal. Nice and slow around that curve, keeping everything lined up. It can definitely be hard to see the clear, so just know that it may not turn out perfect. It'll be okay. But yeah, then I'll end up trimming this to 1/4, and then we'll add binding, because I definitely don't want to leave that unfinished. Knowing this, if you were going to make this after watching it, you could cut your zipper panel 1/2 inch wider. I don't want to say 1 inch, but it might be 1 inch. Yeah, maybe 1 inch wider. Because you've got 1/2 inch on this side, 1/2 inch on that side to make up for that seam allowance. Yeah, I think that looks good. And then it has you do both sides and then add your zipper panel, but you could add your zipper panel to that whenever. You just want to make sure that your zipper panel is right sides together. Your exterior fabric should be touching your exterior fabric. So right now I'm looking inside the bag, so I should not see the zipper tape. If I can, I have it on the wrong side. But yeah, that zipper panel fits perfectly, just like that. So I'm just gonna baste it into place along the top edge. Okay, and then this mesh pocket is your interior, so that should be facing you as we were putting this together, because it doesn't go on your exterior, it goes on your interior. And we have it so that the exteriors are all right sides together at this moment. So I've got my gusset facing up, and that is what I'm going to be clipping towards. Lining up the bottom and then lining up the top edges and the side, keeping all the extra gusset to go into the curve. And you'll see that I'm not clipping the curve. I'm not clipping that together just yet. Top, side, all the way down, and then sit that flat so that it matches the other side. And then we're gonna add little snips into that curve. You may not need to clip your fabrics if you used a cotton, but I imagine you're not following this video if you used a cotton. You'd be following the designer tutorial. Okay, I've got that all clipped together. Everything fits perfectly. And this is going to be that 1/2 inch seam allowance. If you decided after you watch this to change your zipper panel to be a little bit wider, then you could go ahead and use that 1/4 inch seam allowance and you'll just have a little bit bigger of a bag in the end. Making sure everything stays lined up. And if you start to get a wrinkle or a pucker, just lift up and massage it away. Sometimes they're unavoidable. Ooh, just ran out of bobbin. Dang. Thanks, girl. Okay, 1/4 inch. Trimming that down. All right, and then we'll baste this other side. Oh, I love the size of this. So cute. Yeah, I definitely can see myself making some of these in the regular fabrics, some vinyl. Because with the vinyl, you really don't need to add any interfacing, but I can also see using quilt cotton be really, really cute. Yeah, so we gotta bind it, unavoidable. You could use regular double fold bias tape. You could use really anything you wanted. I'm gonna go ahead and just use this white. This is a waterproof binding that I carry on my website. I'm just roughly measuring and then adding a little bit more. And then I'll cut 2. The original pattern is not a bound pattern, so if you're looking at this and you're like, oh, I don't want to do that, well, you don't have to. You don't even have to bind this if you don't want to. You might even be able to do, let's see, like stitch it from the outside. I wonder if I could. Let's see. But basically like a French seam. It's just going to be thick. Might even be difficult on the side seams, but what you could do is clip this together and then sew along that edge on the outside, but I don't think that's going to give us the cleanest finish. So I'll just turn it and we'll add that binding. I can also add binding to the top seam around it and then top stitch it, but we shall see what we want to do with that. Yeah, this is honestly like a really good like diaper and wipes size. So I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, we can add binding around the top edge. And then when we flip it, we're gonna fold it down and then top stitch it so that that zipper perks right up. Yeah, because you top stitch around that as well. So let's see, I am using double-sided tape with my binding. This is my preferred method, but it is not the only method. I do have some pre-made bias tape too, or yeah, binding. Okay, so I'm gonna start at this top edge. If I do what I'm planning, which is to add binding along the top edge as well, let me grab that now, then I don't need to make sure this edge is finished because I'm gonna be covering it. So we're just folding this around the edge and the center. And this binding is thin enough that it's not going to be adding a ton of bulk. It does not have a fraying edge. It has a finished edge along the sides. Obviously, it will fray a little bit where you cut it, but this will not fray. And it'll help reinforce your mesh pocket as well. Okay, so I just have this little inch to cut off, not too bad. Okay. And then this will be sewn on with a 3/8 inch. So as I was thinking about it, I was like, ooh, my 1/2 inch might have been too much of a seam allowance. So probably do 3/8, trim it, and then when you attach your binding, do that 3/8 again. So trim it to 1/4. So the issue is I'm taking an extra 1/4 of an inch away from the final size if I were to do all that math correctly, but it's not going to make the pouch that much different. Looks good. And then we'll repeat on the other side. So I'm finding the center, I'm pressing all that down and clipping, and then when I get to the curve, just kind of turning the binding and clipping as you go. And just stretching it ever so slightly. I mean, like, there is no stretch to this material, but I'm just turning it. Some people prefer fold over elastic because it has that stretch and it's going to make it a nice snug fit. This can leave some little excess, so keep that in mind. Do whatever feels right to you. I just don't love the look of fold over elastic, but I think it's like that little bit of shine to it that I'm like, well, that's a hair tie. But maybe I just haven't looked or found the right one yet. Alrighty. And just trim the excess. And 3/8 of an inch. Back stitch. Lighter. Okay. So there is all that. So now we want one more piece of binding along the top edge, and I'm folding my gusset towards the exterior because that's kind of how it's going to sit anyway. So folded that in the opposite direction. And this will just go around the top edge. And then I have to decide like where to hide the overlap, but I think I'll just kind of do it in the center. It is what it is. Okay, so fold that flat. Pull those layers, fold that down, and then clip it again. Probably could have basted that seam in the direction you wanted it to go so it would sit, but I can clip it and it'll hold well enough. Just a little extra bulk to fight. So I actually may not be top stitching through all of this because it is pretty thick. So pressing that against the back and then folding down to the front. And we'll overlap that and fold this end down so there's no raw edge, and then fold that back over top. I think that worked out surprisingly well. I don't have any of my woven label on here, and if I give it to my sister, she'll kill me. So I'm gonna tuck it on the side here. I think that'll look nice. So I'm just gonna peel the tape back, stick that in there. Okay. All right, now 3/8 inch seam allowance. Cleaning up my area. And I like to start where that overlap is. Okay, back to where we started. I think this looks really nice. Like, I'm really happy with how this is turning out, especially since I went into this with ultimately no plan. Somewhat no plan, minimal plans. Okay. So I still might try to top stitch the zipper panel down, but I don't know that I can. It's a lot of bulk. I'll try to clip it and see, but this definitely can't be done on a domestic. That top stitch, the rest of it, no problem, but this top stitch, no way. You may honestly even be able to clip this and just let it rest, but I think it's super cute. So yeah, I think having two pulls on it would be nice. I might not rivet those down. I don't think it's like a make or break situation. Just got some extra threads here. I'm snipping away. Do not melt your zipper teeth. Boy, oh boy, would that be not good. I'm just trying to decide, do I try to top stitch through that? If I do it this way, it's gonna look real bad on the exterior. So let's do it this way. I'm gonna do it. Heck it. It'll look so much better with that seam sitting flat. So it is, like, I am sewing through that binding in a weird way, but but it's not too terrible. And then I've got some bulk along the corners. But I love where I have my woven label. And like, it just kind of peeks through the side panel there, and now top stitching it, it sits even better. Okay. No issues with my machine. And my foot got loose again. I'm just going really slow over the bulk in this area. And I'm giving myself grace that it's not going to be a perfect top stitch, but the bag is clear. So like, I'm not saying you can't see it, you're just less likely to see it. Okay. Alrighty. So yeah, you can see it sits so much nicer with it top stitched. And then once you fill it up, it'll be so cute. Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's adorable. Ah! Okay, I'm really happy with it. I love the mesh pocket in there. I might keep this one for me, maybe, I don't know. I'm just like diapers, wipes, underwear, like perfect little potty training bag. Opens nice and wide up at the top. Even if you were to like rivet, the bag has you add snaps, and for cotton for sure, but like with this clear vinyl, it wants to stand up on its own, so it might not serve a good purpose. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I would love to know if you make a clear one, or if you're like, you're insane, that's stupid. Let me know, and I will see you next time. Bye.